I think it's fair to say that the natural world is beautiful precisely because it is complex. The skies that arc above us, the oceans that breathe against the shore, the quiet rivers that thread through fields at dusk, all of it is a kind of living tapestry. It is beautiful to look at. And if we take our time, it's even more beautiful to understand. Understanding doesn't spoil the magic. It deepens it. It lets the mind rest inside the pattern, the way the body rests inside a warm bed. Light is our window on that pattern. Almost everything we know about the universe, about distant stars, about the histories of planets, about the weather in the high thin air above the mountains, arrives as light. It's a messenger that travels easily, slipping through the dark like a whisper, carrying information with exquisite patience. When it reaches us, the eye receives it, the brain translates it, and the world becomes visible. That simple act, the eye, the brain, the image, is the beginning of comprehension and also the beginning of comfort. We can see, so we can settle. Sometimes, though, light plays quiet tricks, and the world takes on unfamiliar moods. A landscape under thick cloud becomes monochrome, and the familiar greens drain into a tranquil grey. Snow reflects the sky, and everything softens. A city in fog seems to remember the sea it once rose from, every sound wrapped in cotton. None of this is sinister. It's just the way light interacts with air and water and dust, repainting the same scene in gentler tones. If you've ever felt your shoulders loosen in that soft weather, you've felt physics working in your favor. There are places on Earth where the conversation between light and water becomes almost impossibly delicate. Imagine a tall cliff and a wide river that pours away in a continuous curtain. A waterfall throws mist into the air, and that mist becomes a screen for moonlight. On a handful of nights each month, when the sun, the earth, and the moon line up, the moon's light reaches that spray at just the right angle. Each tiny drop becomes a prism, and the faintest bow of color forms in the night. A lunar rainbow. It is shy, quiet, nearly invisible, unless your eyes are dark adapted. You don't chase it, you wait for it. The light enters the droplets, bends, reflects, and leaves. The eye accepts it, the brain composes it, and for a little while, the night remembers it is made of the same laws as the day. If we step back gently, without hurry, we notice that this is the same story everywhere. Light carries the fingerprints of its source. When it leaves a warm object, it says, "This is my temperature." When it leaves a star, it says, "These are my elements, this is my age. This is how fast I'm moving." Even the coldest things speak, only more quietly, in wavelengths we cannot see with our eyes. The universe is not silent. It hums softly across the spectrum, from waves so long they pass through mountains, to waves so short they sketch the hearts of atoms. When astronomers say that radio waves are light and X-rays are light, they're simply admitting that the same gentle messenger wears many coats. Sometimes the Earth demonstrates this in dramatic fashion, and then, as if embarrassed, returns to stillness. In a northern land of fire and ice, the ground once opened, and a new field of rock began to write itself in glowing letters. Lava flowed where once there had been snow. Steam rose where once there had been frost. It's tempting to think of this as chaos, but even here the pattern is patient. The heat is released, the gases rise, and in time the atmosphere clears. Volcanic ash, if it rises high enough, can shift the sky's brightness for a season, but even that is part of the balance. The planet breathes out, the planet breathes in. And between those breaths, life goes on folding the laundry of days quietly, methodically, without urgency. Everything that has a temperature emits light. You and I, at rest, are glowing in wavelengths our eyes can't see. The bed radiates feebly, the bedside table, the walls, the ceiling, the roof. The room is a soft lantern in the dark, trading photons with the night. It's comforting to realize that the same rule that lets an astronomer read the warmth of a newborn star also explains why a duvet traps heat so kindly. Physics is not a separate world, it is this world, lifted to the level of lullaby. When those laws are steady beneath you, it becomes easier to let go. You don't have to hold the universe up. You only have to float on it for a while. Let the mind picture a beam of moonlight crossing space, passing through cold, thin air, touching a curtain of mist. Each droplet turns politely, offering the light a path, in and out, bend and return. Some of that light arrives at the eye. The signal travels along soft nerves. The brain recognizes a curve of color that is almost not there at all. This is what understanding often feels like, a quiet recognition that needs no applause. And perhaps that is why the night can be such a good teacher. It removes the unnecessary and leaves only the essential. A sky, a breath, a heartbeat. Beyond the roof, the same light is streaming from old stars, crossing old distances, bringing old stories that are somehow always new. The colors we see in a sunset are echoes of scattering in the air. The glitter of frost is geometry. The calm you feel when you gaze at a river is not naive. It is the nervous system aligning with gentle regularities that were already there, flows, cycles, periods, orbits. So we can give ourselves permission to rest. The world will keep turning. The moon will keep raising pale boughs over falls and fields. The faint hiss of starlight will go on unfailingly, whether we listen or not. If your thoughts stray, let them wander like fireflies, and come back when they're ready. Notice the weight of the blanket, a small gravity, holding you to your personal piece of earth. Notice the rhythm of your breathing, an intimate tide. The room is still, the patterns are kind, and all the distant messengers are doing their work without complaint. And as we drift, we might allow one last image to settle. A waterfall at night, a veil of droplets suspended in the moon's patient gaze, each one bending light, just enough to write a whisper of color across the dark. The universe, in that moment, is not demanding your attention. It's offering you rest. Let the whisper become a hum, the hum become a hush, and the hush become sleep. I think it's fair to say that rest is a natural consequence of rhythm. Everywhere you look, the universe organizes itself into gentle cycles, day following night, tides moving in and out, seasons leaning slowly from warm to cool and back again. Your body is part of that music. It keeps time with a small clock in the brain that listens to light in the morning and darkness in the evening. When the light softens, chemistry softens with it. When darkness arrives, a quiet biochemistry invites every cell to lower its voice. You don't have to force this. You can simply align with it, the way a leaf aligns with the surface of a pond, supported by water you scarcely notice. If we drift outward in our thoughts, we find longer cycles laid across the sky. The moon tugs very gently on the oceans, drawing the water into a pair of bulges, one facing the moon and one opposite. The earth spins beneath those bulges, and the shoreline feels the slow pulse of gravity. Twice each day, the sea advances. Twice each day, it retreats. In the shallows, sand grains roll and settle, and in time, they arrange themselves into ripples. If you run your fingers lightly across those ripples, you can feel the memory of the tide written in texture. It's a calming thought. Even the sand is recording a lullaby in its shape. Light too has a rhythm. It behaves as a wave, and waves have crests and troughs, a rise and a fall. When two gentle waves meet, they can add together and grow, or subtract and soften, and then continue on their way, each retaining its character. This, I think, is a lovely model for thought. Two ideas can meet, make a pattern, and then drift apart again without conflict. In the quiet of night, when the mind slows, thoughts become like those waves. They approach with a small swell. They cross, they diminish, and they move on. Nothing urgent is required of you. You can just watch the pattern form and fade. There are places where the world demonstrates this principle so beautifully that time itself seems to slow. On long beaches before dawn, the air is still and cool. and the sea glass edge of the horizon is only just visible. Somewhere offshore, a school of tiny creatures releases a pale light bioluminescence, each flash a chemical conversation in water. The surf collects that light into lines that roll and break at your feet. If you stand and listen, you can hear what amounts to a planetary heartbeat, a regular hush as the waves arrive, a brief pause, and then the soft rake of water sliding back through the pebbles. It's hard not to breathe in time with that. In and out, in and out. The body remembers how to be simple. Even in the high atmosphere, where the air is thin and cold, there are waves, rivers of wind that meander around the world. They carry with them traces of faraway things, the scent of deserts in dust, the salt of oceans in microscopic crystals, the faint smell of forests after rain. When the winds cross mountain ranges, they lift, cool, and condense, sketching cloud into lenticular discs that look like careful brushstrokes. Pilots sometimes call them standing waves. They hold their shape while the air passes through, like a melody suspended over moving water. You don't have to climb to see them. You only have to know they're there, to feel a little steadier, reminded that above the roof, the sky is keeping time. If we slide our gaze further, beyond weather and wind, we arrive at the slow dance of planets. Each world traces a path around the sun, and those paths are not the perfect circles of schoolroom posters, but gentle ellipses, slightly stretched, elegantly predictable. Mercury completes a circuit quickly. Neptune takes a long, unhurried sweep. The harmony of their motion was once a mystery. Now we know that gravity writes the score. What reassures me is that these orbits are reliable companions. When you feel scattered, you can imagine those distant worlds following their lanes, not because anyone insists, but because nature finds the simplest line and settles into it. Stars, too, are creatures of order. They are born from cold clouds of gas that, left alone for a long while, begin to gather under their own weight. As the gas contracts, it warms. As it warms, it shines. A balancing act begins. Gravity pulls in, pressure pushes out. While that balance holds, the star is content. It can remain in that steady state for billions of years, radiating a constant glow into the darkness. The sun is in just such a phase now, and its calm light is quite literally the reason your pillow is warm, your room is gentle, and your breath can fall into an easy pattern. We orbit a stable star. That fact alone is a tender invitation to rest. Closer to home, there's a quieter physics that belongs to familiar rooms. A mattress yields just enough to spread your weight. The blanket captures tiny eddies of air and keeps them near the skin. The floor carries the small murmurs of the building and then swallows them. If a clock ticks, it marks seconds that are all the same size, little equal boxes of time that you can stack in the mind like smooth pebbles, one and another and another. You do not need to count. The counting is being done for you by springs and gears and a modest oscillation. The work is handled, your only task is to allow. And if thoughts arrive, as they inevitably do, you can treat them as birds crossing a wide field at dusk. They come into view, they pass, they leave no lasting mark on the sky. The truth is that a thought is a temporary organization of energy in a brain that is otherwise content to idle. You can notice it, and then notice that you are noticing it, and then let the attention widen again until the thought no longer stands apart from the background. What remains is simple sensation: the rise of the chest, the cool of the room, the soft pressure from the pillow. Those sensations are trustworthy. They don't demand interpretation. They are the friendly physics of being alive. Perhaps it helps to imagine drifting on a slow river at night. The stars are reflected in the surface. The banks move by at the pace of an unhurried walk. Somewhere far away, a waterfall throws mist into the moon's light, and a shy rainbow is being written on the dark. Between here and there, on the water where you are, the only task is to float. The river knows its course. Gravity does the steering. If you turn on your side, the current turns with you. If you sigh, the sound becomes part of the night and disappears into it without resistance. In a moment, if you like, you can let the scene fade to a comfortable blankness. No images, no words, just the gentle assurance that the world is ordered, ancient and kind. The cycles will keep turning, the waves will keep arriving, the sky will keep its quiet watch. You belong to that order, and it carries you without effort. Breathe in and feel the room hold you. Breathe out and feel yourself held a little more. Then let the holding and the breath become the same simple, steady thing, and let that steady thing carry you down into sleep. I think it's fair to say that what calms us most is not silence, but steadiness. Even silence, if you listen very closely, contains textures. The hush of air moving in the room, the almost inaudible thrum of distant life, the soft percussion of your own pulse, conducted through pillow and bone. These are gentle signatures of order. They tell you the world is behaving itself. When the nervous system senses that sameness sounds that neither rise nor demand, its grip loosens. Muscles let go, eyelids grow heavy, and thought becomes less a debate and more a soft weather pattern meandering across a warm sea. Consider a pendulum, a weight on a string released and allowed to swing. At first it moves with a confidence that looks like intention, but really it is simply exchanging energy, height for speed, speed for height, under the constant supervision of gravity. With each pass, a little energy is shared with the air, a little with the support, and so it slows, not abruptly, gracefully. The arc diminishes, the motion smooths, and eventually the pendulum rests at the lowest point, where gravity wants it to be. Sleep is rather like that descent. There's no need to stop yourself. You only need to allow the exchanges to happen, effort trading places with ease, alertness trading places with calm, until you settle naturally at the quietest point. If we look outward, the night sky offers the same lesson in another key. The constellations are stories, yes, but underneath the stories are accurate clocks. For thousands of years, people have noticed that the stars rise a little earlier each night, that certain bright points return to the same place in the sky after a measured number of evenings. These are reliable rhythms written across distances so vast that even their changes appear still. When your mind drifts to Orion or the Plough, you are engaging with one of the oldest calendars, and it rewards you by asking nothing in return, no decisions, no replies, only quiet looking, which is the most restful kind of attention. Closer than stars, nearer than weather, there is a truly intimate physics unfolding in every breath. Inhale, and the tiny sacs in your lungs open like fields of flowers. Oxygen crosses into the blood, guided by simple diffusion, the tendency of things, to spread from where they are plentiful to where they are sparse. Exhale, and carbon dioxide leaves along the reverse gradient, a gentle unburdening. You are not directing this at the level of thought. The laws take care of it. And when those laws are given steady conditions, cool, dark air, a comfortable position, a mind that is willing to be quiet, they operate with a kind of elegance that is the foundation of ease. There's comfort, too, in understanding warmth. Heat is just motion on a very small scale, atoms and molecules jostling, sharing energy, equalizing their differences. When you draw a blanket over yourself, you are asking those motions to stay close, to circulate among the fibers and your skin in a local community. Entropy, a word that can sound unsettling, is simply the tendency of energy to spread out, to share itself. Here, tonight, it is your ally. The spread of warmth through cloth and air is the mechanism of coziness. What the universe seeks, on the grandest scales, balance and distribution, your body borrows for comfort under a quilt. If a thought tugs at you, something unfinished, a list, a worry, you might imagine it as a leaf on a slow canal. The water carries it, you don't need to. Watch how it drifts, turns once or twice in a little eddy, and then continues along a path that requires none of your strength. The canal has a destination. The leaf does not need to know it. This visualization isn't a trick, it's an honest description of how attention works. When you widen the field gently, the single object loses its urgency and becomes part of the scene. What remains is placement. The sense that you are located safely on a particular piece of earth that turns calmly beneath a dependable sky. There are other small assurances scattered through a room at night. The way a curtain hangs is a negotiation between gravity and fabric. The way a wooden shelf rests against the wall is geometry demonstrating its kindest habits. Even the faint, regular breath of a sleeping house has a physics. Warm air rising towards the ceiling, cooling against the pane, and falling again as a slow circulation that never insists upon itself. It is surprisingly soothing to realize that nothing here is idle. Every quiet object participates in a conversation of forces that, taken together, spell out the word home. Out beyond the roofline, oceans remember the moon with tides. Forests remember the sun with rings in their trunks. Stones remember mountains with layers pressed tight over ages. Memory, in this sense, is simply stability written down. Your body has its versions: a steady heart, a repeating breath, a temperature held within a narrow band. When those measures are constant, the brain takes the hint and loosens its vigilance. The ancient watchman in the mind, whose job is to scan for change, reports. All is familiar. On such a report, sleep is not an achievement, it is a permission. If you wish, you can borrow a very small practice from astronomers. They dark adapt their eyes by avoiding bright light and allowing sensitivity to rise naturally. You can dark adapt the mind in much the same way. Turn down the brightness of inner speech, remove any sharp contrasts of thought, and let sensitivity to quiet increase. Perhaps repeat a single word with long, thin vowels so oft, or C-A-A-L-M. Not to force anything, but to give the language centers a gentle task they can do slowly, like knitting a scarf of sound. Before long, the word becomes texture rather than message, and the rest of the mind sinks a few inches deeper into still water. And as you drift, picture an old lighthouse on a mild coast. Its beam turns not to alarm but to reassure. A measured sweep, a pause, and another sweep each rotation, telling sailors that the shore is exactly where it was a moment ago. Let your attention be that beam. Circle the room once, pillow, blanket, breath, then the body, jaw, shoulders, hands, then the greater scene, house, street, sky. Each pass a little slower, each pass a little dimmer, until the beam itself becomes unnecessary and the coast is known without looking. In a few breaths, we can let the image dissolve and move even more lightly into the night's wide field where planets keep their gentle ellipses, where waves write and erase their lines on the shore, where the smallest motions compose warmth and the largest motions compose dawn. We'll meet that dawn later. For now, we'll continue downward, like a pendulum completing its last quiet arcs, into the softest point of rest, where the next thought approaches like a tide at neap, where the only work left is breathing, and even that feels done for you. And from there, we can drift a little further. I think it's fair to say that the body already knows the way down. Long before we had words for it, the descent into rest unfolded as a quiet sequence like lanterns along a garden path, extinguishing one by one. The eyes soften first. Vision, which is usually the loudest sense, agrees to whisper. Hearing follows, not by shutting off, but by changing its priorities. Steady sounds are allowed to pass. Only the unusual is kept for later. Touch narrows to a few friendly anchors, the weight of the blanket, the kindness of the mattress, the gentle borders of the pillow. It is a choreography that repeats itself every night, whether we supervise it or not. Sometimes, on the lip of sleep, the body gives a small start, a brief, weightless lurch, as if the floor tipped by the smallest degree. I think it's helpful to know what that is. The inner ear, our navigator, is still reporting on balance while the muscles are already loosening their grip. For a heartbeat, the two messages disagree. The brain, cautious and caring, sends a test pulse to the limbs, a soft rehearsal of catching yourself. Once it's satisfied that all is well, the rehearsal ends. If that little jump visits you, you can treat it as a guard checking the door and finding it secure. Inside the head, a different kind of quiet engineering begins. The thalamus, the relay at the center of sensory traffic, lowers the gates. Signals still arrive, but most are diverted, like late trains guided to a gentle siding. In this refuge, patterns appear. You might see drifting shapes behind the eyelids, phosphenes, the retina idling, a galaxy of pale sparks. Or a thought may dissolve mid-sentence and reassemble as a harmless dream, a corridor that leads nowhere urgent, a shoreline that repeats itself kindly with each step. This is not the failure of attention, it is attention choosing a softer world to inhabit while repairs are made in the waking one. Repairs do happen. The brain is a careful archivist. Memories from the day, light, heavy, and everything in between, are sorted, strengthened, or folded away. What matters is not that you decide which to keep, but that the process takes place at all. In slow, rolling waves, networks hum to themselves. The hippocampus murmurs to the cortex replies. Like distant beacons trading signals across a calm sea, the conversation settles what belongs where. I find it reassuring that learning and rest are partners. The mind grows more itself by stepping aside for a while. The body too takes advantage of this truce. Deep within there is a tide of clear fluid that moves more freely when the brain is off duty. It washes through the spaces between cells, carrying away the day's small clutter. No drama, no headlines, just housekeeping on a cellular scale. Outside the skull, the heart practices its gentle economy. Fewer beats, each one slightly fuller. The breath lengthens, tiny vessels in hands and feet open to shed the faint excess of heat. Warmth is redistributed. Comfort is negotiated. Equilibrium is reached. Physics, again, quietly kind. It helps, I think, to picture the whole of it as a night sea crossing on a very steady ship. The deck under. You is the bed. The hull is your home. The engines are the heart and lungs, unhurried and reliable. Somewhere far below, currents meet and drift apart. Somewhere far above, constellations keep their stately time. You do not steer. You have a cabin with a round window, and through it you can just see the reflection of distant stars wobble and settle as the bow lifts and falls by a finger's breadth. Hours from now, a new coastline will appear of its own accord. For now, the work is to be carried. If a stray worry knocks about tomorrow, or something left unspoken, you can let it approach the rail and then continue along the promenade until it disappears into the darkness without incident. Worries often present themselves as tasks. At night, they can be acknowledged as weather. You are allowed to let weather pass. The remarkable truth is that in the morning, with sunlight in the room and the brain's archivists done with their rounds, many of those same worries arrive politely in simpler form. Night is the lens that widens, morning is the lens that sharpens. Each has its turn. There is a lovely symmetry to the way motion calms motion. Planets circle the sun in gentle ellipses, electrons cloud around nuclei in soft probabilities, waves in shallow water become organized into long, low sets that fold onto sand. The nervous system, sitting quietly between those worlds, is happiest when it senses similar coherence. A repeating breath, a repeating heartbeat, a repeating touch point where the shoulder meets the mattress. These tell the ancient watcher inside you that the environment is predictable and therefore safe. Safety is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of pattern. I suspect that is why certain images lull us so deeply. A lighthouse beam turning on a mild coast, Wheat in a late summer wind, bowing and rising. A train far away, its rhythm softened by distance until it is simply a count of seconds you do not have to keep. Or a river, dark and glassy, drifting past its banks, carrying the bright coins of starlight on its surface. Each of these is a promise kept over and over again. Each says, "You may rest now, I will continue." In this dim, friendly room, we can let even language thin to thread. If you want a word to accompany you, choose something wide and unhurried. Ocean, perhaps, or evening, or hush. Stretch it out across a breath, and then set it down like a smooth stone on the bed of a stream. Another breath moves past. The stone remains. Another breath, the stone remains. Soon the word is not a command, but a landmark, reassuring precisely because it does not require anything of you. And as we drift, I think it's fair to say, the cosmos itself becomes a kind of cradle. Gravity holds without clenching. Time moves without hurry. Light travels those extraordinary distances to paint a quiet picture on the inside of your eyelids, even when they are closed. Somewhere a faint aurora combs the night with fingers of green. Somewhere a glacier groans gently as it inches towards the sea. Somewhere a night bird calls once and is answered, then falls silent. It is all one scene, and you are permitted to belong to it without effort. In a moment, we can go a little deeper still, past the last small eddies of thought, into the broad current that carries dreams, where the mind rehearses kindness, the body completes its repairs, and the night keeps its generous watch. Let's turn the beam one more time across the room. Pillow, blanket, breath, and then let the light retire, leaving only the certainty that the shore is exactly where it was a moment ago. I think it's fair to say that ease arrives when we let the world be simple. Imagine for a while a shoreline at slack tide, the moment between in-breath and out-breath of the sea. The water neither advances nor retreats, it rests against the land as if listening. In the mind, there is a similar pause, a gentle interval between one thought and the filium. Next. You do not create that interval, you notice it. And once noticed, it tends to widen, the way twilight lingers a little longer on clear evenings. There is a cartographer's grace to the body's descent. First come the shallow waters, drifting images, a feeling of weight rearranging itself, the sense that the room has stepped back a pace. Then the sandbar falls away and the water deepens. Slow waves pass through the brain in broad fronts, like moonlight moving under cloud. Muscles release their last modest assignments, jaw, then shoulders, then the small muscles around the eyes. Even the tongue finds its resting place. If a sound arrives, it is carried across the surface and laid down gently on a distant shore. Nothing breaks the water where you are. Some nights the mind offers a lantern of memory, and you see a scene from long ago in kinder light. A kitchen with a morning sunbeam catching dust, a footpath across a field, a library's cool hush. Let it play at the speed of honey. Memory is not a courtroom, it is a garden at night, visited by moths and moon. The details are allowed to be soft. In fact, softness is the point. The brain is knitting together threads that will be stronger tomorrow. You are not required to hold the skein. The knitting happens whether or not you watch. Warmth settles by tiny negotiations. Capillaries open in hands and feet. Heat moves outward, and the core is pleased. The blanket answers by catching those little currents and returning them. The duvet is, in its way, a gentle echo chamber. For heat, what leaves you finds you again. There's an old comfort in that idea, like calling down a hallway and hearing a familiar voice reply with the same word, only slightly softened by distance. Above the roof, night continues its quiet arithmetic. Satellites drift in patient arcs, each kept in line by a balance of speed and fall. High clouds silver themselves on a thin moon, and then fade to black. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks, once, and then decides that the night requires no announcement after all. If you could rise a mile, you would hear the earth's low murmur, a chorus of wind in trees and water in channels, and small lives at their necessary work. It's all very old, and very sure of itself, and none of it needs your permission to be gentle. I like to imagine the brain's archivists finishing a page, sandblotting the ink, and placing it in a ledger that closes with a satisfying softness. A page for what you learned, a page for what you can safely forget, a page titled To Ripen Overnight. The hippocampus posts its letters, the cortex receives them, the postal route is well lit and free of rush. By morning, the inbox will be lighter and the shelves better arranged. This is what it means to be cared for by a body you hardly have to manage systems within systems, keeping time like well-set clocks in quiet rooms. If a worry returns, treat it as a visitor who has mistaken the hour. Open the door a finger's width, nod to show you have seen them, and point kindly to a chair by the wall with a small sign that reads, Morning. Visitors who are acknowledged without being entertained usually take the hint, and if one lingers, remember that thoughts do not require arguments, they require space. Air thins their insistence. Breath by breath, they become part of the room's gentle background, indistinguishable from the soft turn of the ceiling fan or the distant wash of the night road. There is a physics of trust, and you can feel it now. Gravity holds you to a particular piece of earth, the mattress returns that pressure with patience, the air yields and resumes, the heart writes its quiet meter in the chest. These are not metaphors for safety, they are its mechanisms. Safety, tonight, is the absence of surprises. It is regularities stacking themselves like smooth stones in a cairn, breath on breath, beat on beat, the same soft edges repeating until the pattern is undeniable. Let the imagination float once more to water dark, slow, glassy. A light wind wrinkles the surface and is gone. The river slides past leaning trees, past fields tucked in their blankets of dew, past bridges that keep their silent promises from bank to bank. The current knows the bends and has known them for centuries. It carries a leaf and a feather and a fragment of last year's reed, and now it carries you not as cargo, but as company. You look at once, see the mild geometry of constellations, and then allow the eyelids to lower like a well-made curtain in a theatre that has decided to keep the final scene for morning. In this narrowing, language becomes optional. If a word remains, let it be something with round vowels and no corners. Evening, or ocean, or simply home. Stretch it across an inhale. Set it down across an exhale. Then let it fade to a presence felt rather than heard. Like a lighthouse 2 headlands away, the beam turns, the coast stays where the coast should be. You do not need to look to know. And now the descent continues of its own accord. Lantern by lantern, the path behind you goes dark in the most comforting way, leaving only the glow ahead the softest place, where thought becomes weather, weather becomes hush, and hush becomes the simple weight of warm covers and the gentlest rhythm of breath. We can follow that glow a little further, letting the ship of the body answer the sea with a nod, letting the night keep watch, letting the last small questions loosen and drift, and from here we can go on, deeper still. I think it's fair to say that the simplest truths are often the most restful. The earth turns, the night is kind, breath goes in and breath goes out. If we give those truths a little room, they fill the space with steadiness. Picture, for a moment, a hillside at dusk. The last light leaves slowly, like a visitor who lingers at the door to say one more gentle goodbye. Crickets begin their measured. Chorus never frantic, always even, and a thin ribbon of mist unwinds along the valley floor. You don't have to be there to feel it. The body recognizes patterns it has known for a very long time. Down in the quiet machinery of sleep, waves begin to roll in broad, unhurried fronts across the brain. They're called slow oscillations, and they are precisely what they sound like, vast fields of neurons rising together and settling together, the way wheat bows to a passing breeze and then stands again. Between those waves, brief sparks flicker along well-traveled paths, consolidating what's worth keeping. It is the opposite of chaos, an orchestra rehearsing softly behind closed doors, perfecting tomorrow's music while the audience rests in the lobby. Meanwhile, the heart discovers the pleasure of economy. Each beat a little deeper, each pause a little longer. Baroreceptors, those patient listeners in artery walls, report that all is well. The signal arrives in the brainstem, the instruction returns. We can do this more gently. And so it does. The breath follows suit, not because it is told to, but because systems that share a roof often pick up the same rhythm. Inhalations stretch like slow tides over a wide shelf. Exhalations follow, drawing warmth towards the edges where capillaries have opened in quiet welcome. There's a word I like for this: coherence. It's not rigid sameness, it's compatible difference. The owl calls once from the tree line, the river answers with its hush, the wind decides not to join in. In the room, a clock marks seconds that nobody needs to count. The house settles a fraction. A car passes in the far distance and then is gone. Nothing demands, everything participates. The nervous system, built to notice change, hears instead a choir of agreements and chooses wisely to close its notebook. If a stray thought circles, imagine offering it a lantern and a seat on the deck of that steady ship we spoke of earlier. You are welcome to stay. You tell it, but it is a quiet crossing. Most thoughts, when given a chair and a warm blanket, become very polite. They look out over the rail, listen to the measured thrum of engines, and after a while they doze. You don't throw them overboard, you give them conditions under which they no longer feel the need to speak. Above the roof, the sky performs an old kindness. Starlight pours down in a patient rain that leaves no puddles. The moon, in whatever phase she chooses tonight, lays a soft geometry across fields and roofs. Even the darkness itself is nuanced, blacker under hedges, silver near stone, grey where cloud veils the heights. If you could climb to the ridgeline, you would see the horizon as a quiet promise, the place where night meets morning, by agreement rather than argument. It has kept that promise every day of your life. Inside, warmth arranges itself with friendly efficiency. Fibers in the blanket trap small parcels of air. Those parcels learn your temperature and keep it. The mattress shares your weight, with springs that behave like courteous neighbors, no one bearing too much, all of them bearing enough. Touch points spread out. Shoulder, hip, knee, ankle. Pressure dissolves into surface, then into nothing at all. It's a lovely demonstration of how physics, when unhurried, tends to kindness. Let the imagination visit one more landscape, a high plateau under a winter sky. Snow has fallen in the afternoon and lies unbroken. In the blue hour, before the stars fully declare themselves, the world narrows to three elements: ground, air, and you. Sound is a concept more than a fact. Your breath leaves in a faint ghost and drifts a few inches before it decides to disappear. The mind, seeing that there is nothing to solve, chooses to admire instead. That admiration is very close to sleep, a receptive attention that neither clutches nor turns away. It may help to recall that sleep isn't a switch, it's a slope. You have been descending it for some time now, step by gentle step. Each step closes a small book, the book of conversation, the book of tasks, the book of plans. What remains open are the slim volumes: breath, warmth, gravity, pulse. These don't need to be read, they read themselves to you. If a page rustles, it's only to turn itself, and the story continues without your effort. Now, let language itself become like tide lines in wet sand impressions that the next wave will smooth naturally. If a word remains, let it be wide and round. Home, perhaps, or ocean, or evening. Stretch it gently across an inhale. Set it down across an exhale. Then allow it to fade until only the shape remains, like a shoreline seen through a light mist. Notice how, even without the word, the breath keeps time, the heart keeps counsel, and the room holds its gentle climate. And so we come to the quietest part of the crossing. The ship travels on whether you watch or not. The river carries you whether you steer or not. The sky keeps its appointments whether you count or not. All the dependable things are dependable, and they have made space for you to rest among them. In a few moments, dreams may gather kind ones. I think composed from softness and slow light, from familiar rooms lit by patient windows, from paths that meander only where you would like them to go. Let the last lanterns dim then. Let the coast be known without looking. Let the lighthouse keep its watch 2 headlands away while the cabin grows still. Breathe in and feel the bed receive you. Breathe out and feel yourself received a little more. The descent continues without help, guided by laws as old as stars and as close as your own pulse. There is nothing left to do. The night has you. The patterns are kind, and from here we can drift further yet into the softest country, where thought becomes weather, weather becomes hush, and hush becomes sleep. I think it's fair to say that the night works best when we let it be ordinary. Ordinary has a beauty of its own, regular footfalls of a clock, a breeze that forgets to knock, the comfortable geography of a familiar room. The mind, noticing nothing unusual, relaxes its watch and hands the keys to a quieter custodian. In that handover there is a soft ceremony. Senses dim, muscles loosen, thoughts turn from sentences to shapes, and shapes to textures, mist over water, moonlight on a floor, a distant road like a ribbon that never tightens. Consider the simplest companion of rest, gravity. It holds you with a kindness that asks for nothing. Every point of contact, shoulder, rib, hip, knee, negotiates a gentle truce with the mattress, weight shared out like bread at a long table. Springs yield by fractions, fibers cradle tiny pockets of warm air, the blanket settles with you, learns your outline and keeps it. This is physics at its most affectionate. Forces in balance, pressure distributed, energy content to be still. The body reads those signals the way a harbor reads a tide chart and decides, without fuss, to stay. Breath continues its patient cartography. Inhale, space widens, ribs rise a little, like shutters opening on a quiet street. Exhale, space narrows, warmth returns to the edges, a small hush folds over the room. You don't manage it, you witness it. If a thought appears bright enough to name, let it be written on a paper boat. Place the boat on the slow canal of breath and watch it drift beneath arched bridges of silence, past windows where no one leans out, towards a bend that does not need to be seen to be trusted. Somewhere outside, the world keeps kindly time. A train crosses a valley, so distant that its rhythm arrives a simple counting you do not have to do. A fox steps through grass, made silver by a tempered moon. A branch remembers the afternoon wind, and then forgets again. The sky takes up its oldest work, star by star. It threads a calm embroidery of light through the darkened air, leaves it there for anyone to find. Knowing this is enough, no catalogues, no coordinates, only the assurance that the vastness beyond the roof is in its customary good order. Within the brain, a quiet exchange continues. The relay that handles sensation lowers its lights. The archivists file the day. The custodians of rhythm hum low and even. Little pulses sweep across the cortex like tides under a thin cloud, coupling distant regions into a single choir that prefers vowels to consonants, tones to words. The body hears and agrees. Heartbeats lengthen fractionally, peripheral vessels open like hands. Temperature finds its evening level. Nothing here is dramatic, and that is precisely the balm. It helps to picture a field path at the blue hour, When edges soften and distances grow near, the last birds make their small, contented remarks and then fall respectfully quiet. The hedgerows become ideas rather than obstacles. The path accepts your footfalls as if they had always been part of its plan. In that light, even memory behaves gently, offering scenes without verdicts, faces without demands, places without the need to arrive. This is the mind's kind of physics. Trajectories without collisions, encounters without urgency. If some corner of attention still seeks a task, give it the simplest. Count breaths not as numbers but as stones set beside a river. Inhale and place a smooth stone. Exhale and notice that the river accepts it without splash. After a handful, you may forget the counting and remember only the river. If language wishes to stay, let it choose a round, unhurried word: evening, ocean, home. Stretch it along an inhale, lay it down along an exhale, then allow it to fade into the texture of the room like a lighthouse 2 headlands away, whose beam you no longer need to see to trust. Now the descent steepens in the gentlest possible way. Rooms become cabins, cabins become nests, nests become a soft geometry of warmth and weight that asks nothing more than presence. Dreams idle at the threshold, respectful, content to wait for the last lantern to dim. The ship keeps its course without you, the river finds the sea without you, the sky earns its dawn without you. Your contribution is to be carried, which is to say, to rest. Let the eyelids grow a little heavier, as if the night were writing a calm sentence across them in slow ink. Let the jaw loosen, the tongue settle, the hands remember how to be hands without holding. Allow the spine to lengthen by a whisper, and then to forget that work was ever a consideration. Notice how the breath, left to itself, chooses a kindness you could not have calculated longer here, softer there, always within a range that whispers, safe. And now, we can ease a little further into the softest weather. Imagine a lake before dawn, the surface unmarked, the surrounding hills holding their breath. A bird calls once, and then decides that even that is enough for now. The water wears a copy of the sky, so faithful that you can't tell which is mirror. You are on that shore, or perhaps you are the shore. The distinction is optional. The point is that nothing is required, only being, and even that feels like floating. We'll let the last of the words thin to a friendly haze. The world outside keeps its agreements, the body inside keeps its. And between them, a bridge of breath arches so gently that you feel it only as ease. Drift with it. Let the tide place you a little deeper in the harbour, where ropes do not creak and holes do not knock, where the water is dark and kind, and the stars are patient scribes taking down the quietest of notes. From here, the night will do the rest. I think it's fair to say that the mind settles most deeply when it is allowed to be spacious. Not empty, exactly spacious. Like a high valley under a wide sky, where there is room for a cloud to wander without becoming a storm. Give your thoughts that valley. Let them appear at the horizon, move at their own unhurried pace, and fade into the soft distance without needing an escort. Spaciousness is not something you build, it is something you stop crowding. The room is already wide enough, the night is already long enough, your breath already knows the way. Consider the quiet mathematics of comfort. Pressure spreads, warmth equalizes, rhythm entrains. A shoulder finds its hollow, the spine lengthens by a whisper, ankles stack in a geometry that asks for nothing more. If you listen not with ears, but with attention, you can feel the small treaty being signed in every joint. We'll be still now, and stillness will be kind. Each exhale seals another line. Each inhale adds its patient signature. There is no hurry. Treaties written in calm ink are the ones that last the night. Above the roof, gravity continues its most courteous work. Planets keep their ellipses, moons their tugs, oceans their replies. Somewhere, a tide turns the corner of a bay, and realizes there is no need to rush the shore. It will arrive by being patient. Somewhere, high air flows over a ridge and becomes a standing wave, a shape that remains while the world moves through it. That is what rest feels like from the inside. You remain while the world moves through you, and nothing essential is disturbed. Inside the head, the relay stations dim further. Sensation still arrives, but not as announcements, more as postcards. All quiet here. Weather fair. Wish you were sleeping. Circuits that kept you alert during the day lower their voices. Circuits that mend and catalogue and tune take the floor. Slow waves pass, like long, even swells, and on their crests ride tiny sparks, memories being threaded into the fabric so they won't unravel. You do not need to supervise. You are the valued guest who has been shown to a soft chair and given a blanket while the archivists finish their gentle work. If a thought insists perhaps a question with a small hook, give it a vessel. Place it in a little canoe made of the word later. Set it on the broad river of breath and watch it slide towards a bend that always leads to morning. The river knows that route by heart. You do not need to paddle. In fact, any paddling would only disturb the reflection of stars that the water is carefully carrying for you. Let the senses narrow to friendly anchors. Weight here, fabric there, the tempered cool of air on the bridge of the nose. Taste becomes neutral and sweet, like clean water. Smell is the faintest trace of soap and night. Hearing is the softest census, a distant car count of one, then none. The house turning a page, perhaps the clock, which has never asked you to keep up. What remains is placement. You are located exactly where rest is most likely, on a small piece of earth that is entirely sufficient for the task. There is a mercy in repetition. Heartbeat, breath, the slow swing of attention from body to room and back again. Repetition teaches the ancient watcher that there is nothing to watch. The watcher yawns, stretches, and agrees to sleep at its post. This is how safety feels, not the absence of life, but the presence of patterns that keep their promises. Gravity promises to hold. The mattress promises to share. The blanket promises to return what you give it. The night promises to last long enough. Imagine, for a moment, a meadow at the blue edge of dawn. Mist lies in shallow pools. Each blade of grass holds a single bead of water that has decided, for now, not to fall. Birds have read the clock, but chosen to remain polite for a few breaths more. The east is pale with the idea of light, rather than light itself. You are lying there, or the meadow is lying here. Either way, the contract is simple. Nothing urgent will happen before you are ready. The body accepts the terms and allows another small portion of vigilance to flow away, like water returning to soil. Language can thin again now. If a word stays with you, let it be. Soft and round. Harbor, home, hush. Lay it across an inhale, and it becomes buoyant. Lay it across an exhale, and it becomes weightless. After a few breaths, the word is not a message, but a shape the breath enjoys making, like a child tracing the same gentle curve in the sand until the tide smooths it for them. And so the descent continues, lanterns dimming one by one along a path that you do not need to see in order to follow. Dreams gather at a respectful distance, composed of kind weather and familiar rooms, of paths that arrive only where you mean to go. The ship keeps its even course. The river knows each bend. The sky attends to its star work without fuss. All the dependable things are dependable. Let the eyelids grow pleasantly heavy, as if the night were writing its last generous sentence there in a slow, clear hand. Let the jaw remember ease, the hands remember rest, the breath remember that it likes to be unhurried. With the next 3 exhales, release first the face, then the shoulders, then the weight of the day. With the next 3 inhales, receive warmth, steadiness, and the simple permission to drift. From here, there is only the softest weather, thought becoming mist, mist becoming hush, hush becoming sleep, where the world remains vast and orderly, and you are gently, perfectly carried within it. I think it's fair to say that ease is a kind of alignment, many small things agreeing at once. The breath agrees with the room agrees with the night agrees with the quiet grammar of the cosmos, gravity holding, time unfolding, light traveling with infinite patience. When those agreements stack, a soft inevitability appears. Rest is not something you win. It's something that happens when nothing pushes the other way. Imagine a lake in the hour before dawn. The water is so still, it keeps a perfect copy of the sky. You can tip your attention forward and watch a star ripple once, then reform, as if the universe were demonstrating how resilience works. A brief disturbance, and then the original pattern returns. Your thoughts can behave like that. A small ripple crosses them, an unfinished task, a remembered name, and then the larger surface reasserts itself, wide and unbroken. There's a gentle cadence running through the body now. The diaphragm draws a smooth line down and lets it rise again. The heart replies with longer, more generous beats, like a lighthouse with a measured, reassuring sweep. Even temperature has found its evening cadence, warmth drifting outward into hands and feet, where tiny vessels open like polite doors. This is physiology at its kindest regulation, without effort, balance without bargaining. If a sound reaches you, notice how it arrives, softened by distance and fabric. Walls don't only separate, they also mellow. The building itself hums with quiet competence, timbers settling by imperceptible fractions, pipes holding their peace, glass cooling to meet the night. In this hush, a clock might still lay down seconds, but each one is a smooth pebble placed gently on the shore of attention and then forgotten. The oldest watcher in the brain takes the hint. Nothing sudden, nothing bright, nothing that insists. Above the roof, planetary clocks keep their silent appointments. A far world completes the faintest portion of its ellipse, a motion so steady that it may as well be standing still. Thin air pours over mountain ridges and forms standing waves, shapes that remain while the air itself passes through. Rest feels like that from within. You remain while the moment moves through you, unchanged at the core. Let the inner picture drift to a river with slow bends. On the banks, fields hold pockets of mist. The current is neither eager nor reluctant, it simply proceeds. You place a tiny paper boat on the surface, your last small thought for the night, and watch it travel toward a bend that always leads to morning. No one needs to paddle. The river has memorized every turn, and the stars have memorized every reflection. Inside the head, custodians complete quiet work. Slow waves roll like long, even swells across the cortex, coupling far coasts of thought into one sea. On those swells, little sparks ferry the day's important fragments to safer shelves. A name lands lightly, a shape resolves. An insight is penciled in for tomorrow, more legible for having rested. You don't supervise, you don't even attend. You are the honored guest, covered with a warm blanket, while the library puts itself in order. If attention asks for a task, give it the simplest. Choose a round word, harbor, hush, home. Let it arrive on an inhale and leave on an exhale, the way a tide draws a clean curve on sand and then erases it kindly. After 3 or 4 breaths, the word becomes a shape rather than a message. After a few more, it becomes only a familiarity, like a lantern seen from far down shore, useful even when you're not looking. The body keeps affirming its treaties with comfort. The jaw releases its last small ambition. The tongue finds its quiet seat. The eyes settle behind their curtains, content to be the dark they usually seek in the world outside. Points of contact, shoulder, hip, knee, become planes, and planes become a soft, continuous field. Pressure disperses, until it is no longer a thing but a climate, and the climate tonight is kind. Somewhere out there, snow collects on a branch and clings without falling. Somewhere, wheat leans and returns. Somewhere, a wave reaches exactly far enough and then withdraws, satisfied. These are not instructions, they are assurances. The world has a talent for gentle limits. Your breath is enacting that same talent, rising to its edge, then returning, never needing to measure, only to repeat. Let even the idea of time soften. Seconds are no longer steps to be climbed, their leaves drifting alongside the boat. Minutes widen into pools, where the reflection of the sky stops pretending to be separate from the sky. Hours become a single, generous room in which the house of the body turns each page it needs to turn, and then closes the book with a soft, familiar sound. If one last visitor arrives, a list, a memory, a question off a receipt, a blanket, and a view. We sail at dawn, you might say. And tonight, this deck is for quiet. Most visitors, given comfort and no conversation, grow drowsy on their own. They will be there in the morning if you need them. They will not be in command of the night. And now, the descent continues almost by itself. Lantern by lantern, the path behind dims. Lantern by lantern, the path ahead glows just enough. The ship keeps its line. The river keeps its tempo. The sky keeps its long arithmetic. Your breath keeps its soft promise. In and out. Arrive and release. From here, we can drift a little further past the last tidy edges of thought, into the mild interior of dreams, where familiar rooms open onto patient landscapes, and every road leads only where you would like to go. I think it's fair to say that softness is a property the universe knows well, even among its grandest architectures. Spiral galaxies, river deltas, dunes' edges prefer to curve, patterns prefer to flow. That preference is comforting because it mirrors what the body wants at night: roundness over angles, continuity over interruption. Let your attention choose curves now. Let it trace gentle arcs from breath to heartbeat, from heartbeat to the light pressure at the shoulder, from there to the hush that lives between one sound and the next. Circles within circles, nothing to solve. Imagine a long valley where mist lifts slowly from a river at first light. The water moves with the confidence of familiarity, turning where it has always turned, smoothing stones it has known for centuries. You stand on the bank, although stand may be too strong a word. Perhaps you are simply present, the way stones are present, at ease with gravity, in agreement with place. A leaf rides the current. A fish turns once and disappears into the pattern from which it came. The mind imitates the valley and its soft decisions, to let, to allow, to continue. Inside, the night's custodians are deep in their expertise. Slow waves roll across the cortex, like broad swells crossing an ocean. On their backs, little sparks carry the day's valuables to safer shelves. A name finds its drawer. An image finds its folder. A plan half formed at dusk gains a label that reads "Clarify" in the morning, and with that label attached, it stops tugging at the sleeve. This is not avoidance, it's maintenance. The library of the self is putting its books in order, while the guest of honor rests. Breath conducts the quiet orchestra. Inhale a low, even phrase that widens the chest by the gentlest degree. Exhale, an answering phrase that closes the circle without haste. Between them, a pause that feels like the calm of a lake when the wind decides to be polite. Heartbeats follow suit, fewer, fuller, each one a small lantern set upon dark water and left to drift until its glow merges with the background of night. Temperature equalizes in friendly increments. The duvet returns what you've given it. Warmth circulates like a local kindness. If a thought arrives with the bright edges of daylight still on it, give it a softer frame. Place it in a room with tall windows and net curtains, where everything is filtered through a quiet fabric. Let the thought sit in a comfortable chair with a view of the sea. Offer tea. It will learn the room's manners. Daytime questions often become nighttime acknowledgements, not puzzles to be solved, but postcards to be read later. Arrive safely. Weather fair. See you tomorrow. Beyond the walls, the world demonstrates fluent patience. A distant car becomes only a thin line drawn across the far horizon of hearing and then erased. Somewhere, a fox steps across frost that does not protest. Clouds, barely there, pass the moon like veils that prefer to be suggestions rather than declarations. If you could rise above the roof and listen from the height of the chimney pots, you would hear the city, or the countryside, settling into its broadest rhythm, distributed, uncompetitive, kind. There's a mercy in the way pressure becomes climate. At first there are points, the hip, the shoulder, the heel, then planes, then a field that accepts you entirely. What was contact becomes context. You are not so much lying on the bed as belonging to it for a while. Gravity is not a demand but a presence. The mattress is not an object but a place. The blanket is not a layer but a season. Late summer in the language of skin, early autumn in the language of thought. Let the imagination drift to a lighthouse on a mild peninsula. Its beam turns with the patience of a teacher who trusts the lesson. Not to warn, tonight, but to reassure. There is the coast, exactly where it was. There is the channel, exactly as wide. There is the quiet town behind the dune, exactly as it has always been in the hour before dawn. Let your attention be that beam for a circuit, or two pillow, blanket, breath, hands, shoulders, jaw. The gentle geography of the room. Each sweep a little slower, each sweep a little dimmer, until the need to sweep fades and the coast is known without looking. Inside the head, the last bright committees adjourn. Language keeps a skeleton crew for dreams. Vision stores its paints. Decision-making notes, with relief that no votes are required until morning. What continues is older and simpler. Regulation, repair, archival work, the quiet diplomacy between systems that keeps you whole. The body is very good at this. It doesn't need speeches, it needs opportunity. Tonight is opportunity. If attention still asks for occupation, give it the tide's oldest arithmetic. Choose a round word, harbor, home, hush, and place it on the inhale, as if it were a little lantern set on water. On the exhale, watch the lantern drift. Another breath, another lantern. After a handful, the lanterns are not counted, they are climate. The surface gleams faintly, the shoreline relaxes, the sky accepts the reflection it is offered and returns it unchanged. Now let time widen. Seconds dissolve like sugar into tea. Minutes become a single silk scarf that drapes from now to morning, with no knots, no snags. Hours are rooms within the same house, where lights dim in sequence, each door closing with a soft, familiar click. You move without moving. The house moves without leaving its foundations. The night advances without using the word forward. And as all of this continues, without supervision, without effort, you can allow one more gentle image to settle, snow falling in the calm between hills. Each flake negotiating its small truce with the air, arriving exactly as softly as gravity allows. The ground receives the gift and becomes simpler by degrees, roughness smoothed, angles rounded, the world edited into kindness. Your mind can snow like that, one quiet flake at a time, each one a tiny permission, until the landscape is all permission, white, level, forgiving. From here, we drift by nature rather than by plan. Lantern by lantern, path behind. Lantern by lantern, a hush ahead. The ship keeps its line, the river keeps its bend, the sky keeps its patient ledger of light. Your breath keeps its covenant. Arrive, release. Arrive, release. And as the covenant holds, thought becomes weather, weather becomes hush, and hush becomes sleep, where rooms open onto gentle landscapes and every road curves toward exactly where you would like to go. I think it's fair to say that the universe has a fondness for gradients, gentle changes rather than abrupt edges. Dusk to night, warm to cool, bright to dim. Your body borrows that preference. The pupils widen by degrees. The pulse lengthens by fractions. Thoughts soften from lines into tones and then into textures. If you're listening for a boundary, you won't find one. Instead, there's a slope, and you're already on it, moving with the quiet inevitability of a tide that knows the shape of its shore. Picture an aurora unfolding over a high, still lake. Charged particles drift down magnetic threads and paint the sky with slow curtains of green. Nothing snaps, everything flows. The lake answers with a faithful copy. Ripples stretch the reflection, but never break it. That is how calm attention behaves. The world makes a picture, the mind receives it. Small movements play across the surface and then lengthen into rest. You don't hold the scene, you let it hold you. Inside, the night shift carries on with humble mastery. Slow waves roll across the cortex like the long breath of the sea. On their backs ride tiny sparks, carrying the day's useful fragments to steadier shelves. A face finds its place. A sentence trims itself to clarity. An idea that arrived sharp at noon rounds its corners and waits politely for morning. Meanwhile, the thalamus guards the doors, letting only the softest messages through texture, temperature, the old reassurance of weight. Even dreams, when they begin, prefer corridors without corners and landscapes that agree with your step. Breath continues its measured geography. Inhale, an easy widening through the ribs, a little lightness behind the sternum. Exhale, warmth drifting to the edges, the whole room exhaling with you by sympathy. Somewhere deep in the chest, baroreceptors report a calm pressure, and the heart replies with unhurried confidence, beats fewer, fuller, a lantern placed, and then another, each one floating a little longer before it joins the night. If a thought arrives with a title page and a demand, let the dimmer switch do its work. Turn the brightness down until words become silhouettes behind friendly gauze. Place the thought by a window that looks onto water. Show it the lanterns drifting. Set a cup of quiet beside it. Most thoughts become considerate in such company. Tomorrow, they say, not as a postponement, but as a promise. You nod, and the scene resumes its gentle arithmetic. Arrive, release. Arrive, release. Beyond the walls, the planet keeps easy time. Somewhere, dunes are migrating by a hand's breadth each season, wind combing their flanks into repeating ribs that the sun will gild at dawn. Somewhere, a glacier remembers last winter and moves the thickness of a book toward the sea. Somewhere, waves write their cursive lines along a beach and then erase them with the next patient stroke. These are not spectacles to be witnessed tonight, they are assurances. Change without rush, motion without alarm, patterns older than hurry, warmth settles by polite negotiation. Capillaries in fingers and toes open like small doors. The blanket learns your climate and returns it. The mattress shares weight with honest fairness. No spring asks to do more than its share, none asks to do less. Points of contact soften into planes, planes into a single field, until pressure itself becomes background, a kind gravity, an agreement among surfaces. You are not holding yourself up, you are being held. There is comfort in the sky's oldest murmur, the faint afterglow that fills space, a low, even hum from the early universe that arrives tonight as a measureless quiet. You don't hear it, but the idea of it works like a lullaby, everywhere, always, a soft sameness that asks for nothing. If you need a word, let it be something round and familiar, harbor, home, or simply hush. Lay it along an inhale, set it down along an exhale, then let it remain as a shape, The breath remembers even when language wanders off to rest. Now imagine a footpath across meadow grass at the blue hour before first light. Mist kneels at the ankles. The horizon carries a pale intention of day, not yet an announcement. Each step is accepted. The path does not insist. You might not be walking at all. You might be the meadow, welcoming the path. Either way, nothing hurries. Even memory adopts the meadow's manners. It offers scenes without verdicts, lessons without assignments, pages that turn themselves and close softly when they are done. Inside the head, committees adjourn. Vision keeps a small staff to light the stage of dreams. Language leaves a bowl of vowels by the door and hangs up its sharp consonants. Decision-making draws the curtains and pins a note for dawn. All essential work continues in silence. What remains is the underlying physics of care, body and brain matching their rhythms until they become one instrument tuned to the key of ease. If attention still asks for a task, give it the tide's oldest counting. 3 gentle inhales to receive warmth, steadiness, permission. 3 gentle exhales to release face, shoulders, the last weight of the day. Then forget the counting and recall only the covenant. The breath will keep you, the bed will keep you, the night will keep you. You do not have to keep anything. Let the eyelids feel the small, pleasant weight of rest, as if the night were writing a final, generous sentence upon them in slow, clear ink. Let the jaw loosen, the tongue find its quiet seat, the hands remember how to be hands without holding. Time widens, seconds blur into a fine mist. Minutes become a single ribbon, unknotted from now to morning. Hours join the same room and dim their lights in sequence, each door closing with a soft, familiar click. And so the descent continues with the certainty of a river that knows every bend. Lantern by lantern, path behind dims. Lantern by lantern, a hush ahead glows just enough. The ship keeps her even line, the sky keeps its patient ledger. Your breath keeps its simple promise. Arrive, release. Arrive, release. From here we can drift a little further past the last neat edges of thought, into the mild interior of dreams, where familiar rooms open onto kind landscapes, and every road curves toward exactly where you would like to set foot to. I think it's fair to say that what reassures us most at night is continuity, the sense that everything around us is part of a gentle sequence already in progress. The earth keeps turning under your room, the moon keeps her quiet account of tides, your breath keeps an even ledger of inhales and exhales. Continuity is nature's lullaby. When we notice it, the body answers by loosening its careful grip and allowing itself to be carried. Imagine a desert after sundown, the great basin of air cooling by degrees. Heat lifts away like a veil. Crickets organize themselves into a soft arithmetic. The constellations take their places without commentary. Sand remembers the day as stored warmth, then relents, grain by grain, until its memory is even with the night. You do not have to be there to feel the lesson. Everything dissipates kindly when nothing hurries it. Worries do the same. Given room and a little time, they choose smaller shapes. Inside, your quiet machinery aligns. The diaphragm draws a smooth thread down and sets it back. The heart replies with considered strokes. The small regulators of pressure and temperature hold an unassuming conference and agree upon comfort. The thalamus, custodian of incoming signals, lowers the lights further. Sensation still arrives, but as postcards rather than proclamations, all calm, weather fair, coast clear. On this shift, the archivists continue their work in the stacks, shelving names and faces with a patience that seems almost oceanic. Waves of activity pass wide, slow, and regular, coupling distant shores of the cortex into a single sea that asks for no captain. If a bright thought steps forward with daytime manners, let the room teach it night etiquette. Seat it by an open window that looks onto water. Offer it the word tomorrow the way one offers a shawl, kindly, without debate. Watch how often a thought, given warmth and no argument, falls asleep on its own. You don't need to win. You only need to allow drowsiness to be contagious. Above the roof, a familiar geometry goes on with its quiet recital. Planets complete imperceptible fractions of their ellipses. High air flows over far ridges and becomes standing waves, shapes that remain while the world moves through them. That too is the sensation of deep rest. You remain while experience passes through, the self uncreased at the center. Even light itself, traveling those tremendous distances, arrives tonight without hurry, a patient drizzle of photons painting the softest picture on closed eyelids. Let your attention sweep the room. As a lighthouse beam sweeps a mild coast, one unhurried circuit. Pillow, blanket, breath, jaw, shoulders, hands. The gentle map of the bed beneath you. Then slower, then softer, until you no longer need to look because the coast is known and the beam is free to rest. If language wishes to stay, it can take a single round word as its birth: harbor, home, or simply hush. Lay it across an inhale, set it down across an exhale. After a few breaths, it becomes not a message, but a shape the breath enjoys making. There's comfort in the physics of contact becoming climate. Points become planes. Planes become a continuous field. Pressure disperses until it is not a question but an answer. You are held. The mattress shares the load with polite fairness. The blanket returns warmth with local kindness. Gravity keeps its promise with the same gentle firmness it extends to falling snow, to settling leaves, to the curve of rivers in broad valleys. This is the oldest reliability. You belong to it. Picture, if you like, a Foucault pendulum in a quiet hall, its arc steady, its plane slowly turning, not because the pendulum changes, but because the earth does. Night is that hall. Your breath is that pendulum. The world moves, and you are told without alarm that motion can be truthful and calm at once. The arc shortens gradually as energy is shared with the air and the support, and eventually the bob finds stillness at the lowest point where gravity prefers it. Sleep is simply that preference, honored. Far away, oceans commute under moonlight. Nearer, roofs collect dew. Trees draft their slow sugars. Towns hum at a level that never needs to raise its voice. If a sound reaches you, a car thinning to a line, a pipe cooling with a soft tick, notice how distance and fabric have already done most of the dimming. What remains is evidence that the world is behaving itself. The ancient watcher within hears the report and stands down. Now a small ritual, if attention would like an occupation. 3 gentle exhales to release. Face, shoulders, the day's careful posture. 3 gentle inhales to receive. Warmth, steadiness, permission. Then, forget the counting and remember only the covenant. The breath will keep you, the bed will keep you, the night will keep you. You do not need to keep anything. Let memory change mediums from pictures to textures, from sentences to weather. A corridor in a childhood house becomes not an image but a temperature. A field becomes a way the air felt on the skin. A face becomes the exact ease of a laugh without its outline. This is the mind editing for kindness, rounding corners, lowering contrast, filing sharpness under to be sharpened in daylight. The archivists nod to one another and close another drawer softly. Time widens again. Seconds loosen into mist. Minutes gather into a single ribbon. Hours become rooms in the same house, their lights dimming in sequence, doors closing with that familiar, gentle click. You move without moving. The house settles without shifting. The night advances without using the word forward. Even dreams, waiting at the threshold, have adopted the room's manners, soft corridors, paths that lead only where you'd like to go, weather that behaves. and so the descent continues with the certainty of a river that knows every bend. Lantern by lantern, path behind dims, lantern by lantern, a hush ahead glows exactly enough. The ship keeps her even line. The sky keeps its patient ledger. Your breath keeps its simple promise. Arrive, release, arrive, release. From here, we can drift a little further past the last neat edges of thought into the mild interior of dreams, where familiar rooms open onto kind landscapes and every road curves toward exactly where you would like to go. I think it's fair to say that gentleness is not the absence of force, but the balance of it. Gravity holds, the mattress offers, the breath agrees. When these forces meet in proportion, the body interprets the message correctly. You are safe to be still. Let that message travel, unhurried, from the crown of the head to the soles of the feet, like warm light moving through shallow water, brightening every stone and then settling into clarity. Picture a harbor enclosed by long breakwaters. Outside, the sea has its weather. Inside, the surface smooths to a calm that preserves reflections intact. Sleep is the protected water. Your thoughts may still arrive from the open ocean's small swells of memory, a ripple of tomorrow, but the shape of the harbor returns them to level. Masts regain their clean lines in the mirror. Lanterns float as unwavering coins of light. You don't stop the sea. You change the coastline and let the sea do the rest. Within the brain, the night shift continues its quiet excellence. Slow oscillations drift like dignified swells across the cortex, coordinating distant regions into a single sea. On these swells, brief sparks sleep spindles carry packets of the day toward vaults where they'll be secure by morning. A name lands lightly, no longer urgent. A sequence of steps files itself under ready when called. The thalamus keeps the foyer dim, answering the door only for the most courteous messages. A temperature emendation here, a gentle pressure note there. Everything essential is heard, nothing demanding is admitted. The breath, for its part, maintains the simplest covenant. Inhale. Space widens by a gracious fraction. Ribs part like curtains opening onto a quiet street. Exhale. Warmth drifts outward. The body returns the room's kindness, and the room returns it again. In the pause between, there is a sense easy to overlook by daylight, that time is broader than the clock implies. Seconds are not rungs on a ladder. They are leaves moving downstream at the river's chosen pace. If a thought arrives wearing boots, offer it slippers. Invite it to sit by a window that looks onto water, and give it the word tomorrow as a soft shawl. Many thoughts, clothed for daylight, adopt evening manners when the room remains unwaveringly calm. They become letters rather than alarms. Arrive safely, weather fair, will write again after dawn. You can nod without reading further. Outside, the planet practices patience. Frost arrays its simple geometry on a roof tile. A fox sketches a quiet line across grass silvered by the moon. A train far off reduces itself to a metronome too gentle to measure, marking time you don't need to keep. Above it all, stars hold their map with such fidelity that sailors once navigated by them and lovers still make wishes against them. Tonight, the map's purpose is smaller and kinder, to remind you that order exists at every scale, and you're permitted to rest within it. Warmth organizes itself by polite agreements. Capillaries open in hands and feet. The duvet accepts, reflects, and returns. Pressure dissolves from points to planes to a continuous field, until lying on becomes belonging to. Gravity is steady, like a trusted friend with a patient hand on your shoulder. The mattress shares the load fairly. No single spring is asked to be heroic. In such fairness, nerves grow quiet, muscles relinquish their last small projects, and the skeleton remembers its correct, effortless length. Let the imagination wander to a winter meadow before first light. The air is still. Snow has removed the world's corners and replaced them with curves. Sound lives only as the idea of sound. The sky holds the faintest confession of dawn, but keeps it to itself a little longer. You are present, the way a stone is present, content located, equal to the moment. Down in the depths, where the brain's archivists browse the stacks, a book closes softly. Another is returned to the shelf. A third is left open, with a ribbon marking a page that will read more clearly after sleep. There is a small practice to steady the last eddies of attention. Choose a wide word, harbor, home, or hush. Lay it across an inhale so lightly that it rides like a leaf on clear water. On the exhale, let it drift toward a bend you've come to trust. After a few breaths, the word changes category, from language to landmark, from idea to atmosphere. You know it is there even when you are not looking. Inside the head, the final committees adjourn. Vision leaves a watch lamp burning for dreams. Language keeps a bowl of vowels and tucks away its sharper consonants. Decision-making posts a neat note on the door, no votes until morning, and dims the corridor lights. What continues is deeper and older. Regulation, repair, and the diplomacy of systems that prefer harmony to display. You are the guest for whom this entire enterprise is undertaken, and your sole contribution is permission. Time widens one more degree. Seconds loosen into mist. Minutes trail like silk from now to dawn, unknotted. Hours join the same broad room, their lamps lowering in sequence until the house is gentle everywhere. If a last visitor appears a task, a memory, a question, give them a chair and a blanket and point to the sign that reads, "We sail at dawn." They will understand. Night has a language even worries can learn, and so the descent proceeds with the certainty of a river that knows every bend. Lantern by lantern, path behind dims. Lantern by lantern, a hush ahead glows just enough. Your breath keeps its simple promise. Arrive, release. Arrive, release. The ship holds her even line. The sky keeps its patient ledger. Gravity keeps its unshowy vow. From here we can drift further past the last neat edges of waking thought, into the mild interior of dreams, where rooms open onto kind landscapes, where weather behaves, and every road curves gently toward exactly where you would like to go. I think it's fair to say that the kindest sounds are the ones that repeat without asking for attention. Rain on a roof, a distant train smoothing itself into a soft metronome, the pale murmur of air moving through the quiet lungs of a sleeping house. These are patterns that keep their promises. When the nervous system recognizes a promise kept again and again, it loosens its grip. Muscles lengthen by a whisper. The jaw remembers ease. Eyelids carry a pleasant weight, as if the night were writing on them in slow, clear ink. Imagine a tin roof under a light shower. Each drop arrives, offers its syllable, and departs. There is no urgency, only the democracy of rhythm, every drop equal to every other. Beneath that steady diction, time changes shape. Seconds stop feeling like rungs. They become ripples, widening from a center you don't have to locate. Your breath answers in the same language. Arrive, release. Arrive, release. The roof keeps count so you don't have to. Inside, the night shift continues its quiet mastery. Slow waves sweep the cortex like long, even swells across a calm sea. On their crests travel tiny sparks, those brief, graceful spindles ferrying the day's useful fragments to steadier shelves. A face finds its folder. A sequence files itself as readiness. An idea rounds its corners and pins a note to give. Clarify after dawn. The thalamus, custodian of the door, admits only courteous messages. Temperature, weight, the small diplomacy of comfort. Speech retires its sharp consonants. Vision draws its curtains, but leaves a watch lamp burning for dreams. Breath continues the simplest geometry. Inhale. The ribs part like shutters opening on a quiet street. A soft buoyancy gathers behind the sternum. Exhale. Warmth drifts to the edges. The room returns what you've given, and you receive yourself again, a fraction deeper than before. Between the two is a pause you hardly notice, an island of ease that lengthens when left alone. You don't lengthen it, you simply refrain from shortening it, and the body interprets that restraint as permission. If a thought arrives, with daylight's posture boots on, hands on hips, offer it the evening's attire. Slippers, shawl, a chair by a window, show it the canal of breath and the little paper boats others have launched. Give it the word tomorrow, like a ticket already paid for. Most thoughts, dressed properly for night, find themselves yawning, and then watching the lanterns on the water, and then not quite remembering what they came to insist upon. Beyond the walls, the planet practices literate patience. In a limestone cave, water counts centuries, one drop at a time, and leaves its arithmetic as stone. On a winter field, frost writes with crystal strokes and erases with the first polite light. In the high air, winds pour over ridges and stand themselves into waves forms that remain while the air itself moves through. Rest feels like that from within. You remain. The moment moves through. Nothing essential is disturbed. Warmth arranges itself by local kindness. Capillaries open in fingers and toes. The duvet learns your climate and returns it. The mattress shares weight fairly until points become planes, and planes become a single friendly field. Gravity holds with unshowy fidelity. The skeleton remembers its effortless length. The spine lengthens by a whisper, and then forgets that work was ever a question. Comfort is not an event, it's an agreement, renewed each breath. There is a gentleness to the body's clocks when darkness is steady. Chemistry lowers the room's lights inside you. Vigilance hands the keys to maintenance. Maintenance nods to repair. In deeper waters, the archivists finish a page and close a book with a sound that could only be described as soft. Later, unhurriedly, dreams may arrive and build corridors without corners, landscapes that agree with your step, conversations that are more music than message. Even there, pattern is kindness. Scenes that complete themselves, doors that open onto rooms you already trust. If attention still fidgets, give it a practice older than worry. Choose one round, vowel-rich word harbor, home or hush. Let it ride the inhale as lightly as a leaf on clear water. Let it drift on the exhale toward a bend you've come to trust. After a handful of breaths, the word ceases to be language and becomes landmark present. Even when you're not looking, useful even when you forget it's there. Let your inner picture wander to a lighthouse on a mild coast. Its beam turns not to warn but to reassure. The shore is exactly where it was. The channel is exactly as wide. The town behind the dune is exactly as it has always been at this hour. Make one unhurried circuit pillow. Blanket, breath, jaw, shoulders, hands, the gentle map of the room, then slower, then softer, until the beam itself is free to rest, because the coast is known without looking. Far away, snow is drawing round us over angles. Nearer, a branch remembers the afternoon, and then forgets again. Here, the house turns pages you needn't read. Every scale is offering the same conclusion. Repetition, without demand, is safe. The oldest watcher in the mind takes the report and stands down. With that, the descent steepens in the gentlest possible way, lantern by lantern dimming behind you, lantern by lantern a hush ahead that glows only as much as it must. Time widens. Seconds loosen into mist. Minutes braid themselves into a single ribbon that hangs unknotted from now to morning. Hours become rooms in one house, where lamps lower in sequence and doors close with the softest, most familiar click. If a last visitor appears a list, a memory, a question, give them a chair and a blanket, and point to the little sign by the window, "We sail at dawn, night has a grammar, even worries will learn." And so, with breath keeping its simple covenant arrive, release, arrive, release. The ship holds her even line, the river remembers each bend, the sky keeps its patient ledger. From here, we can drift a little further past the last neat edges of waking thought, into the mild interior of dreams where weather behaves, where rooms open onto kind landscapes, and every road curves gently toward exactly where you would like to go. I think it's fair to say that the deepest comfort comes from belonging to a place, to a pattern, to a night that keeps its word. You belong, just now, to a gentle arrangement of forces. Gravity holding without haste, fabric returning heat with patient courtesy, breath tracing the same soft curve over and over until the curve becomes the landscape itself. The mind, seeing this constancy, releases its last small insistencies. It becomes less a commentator and more a sure, steady, receptive, content to let the water speak in long vowels. Imagine a wide estuary at neap tide. The sea and the river meet without debate. Salt and fresh fold into one another in fine gradients, and every creature that lives there knows exactly how to breathe. Boats rest against their moorings with just enough sway to remind themselves they are made for water. Nothing here hurries the turn. Nothing needs to. That is the texture of your attention. Now, two currents, day and night, mingling with courtesy until they are simply one broad, navigable calm. Inside the head, the custodians continue their understated craft. Slow waves roll like long swells over a quiet ocean. On their backs, little shuttles of electricity ferry the day's essentials to safer shelves. A sound you meant to remember lands gently and stops asking to be held. A name finds its drawer. A plan sets itself down with tomorrow's stamp. The thalamus leaves a side lamp burning for only the softest messages, temperature, weight, the old reassurance of touch. Language, having set out a bowl of vowels for dreams, dims the rest of its alphabet and closes the office door with a pleasant click. Breath keeps to its elegant geometry. Inhale, and space opens by a sympathetic fraction, the way curtains part on a quiet street. Exhale, and warmth finds the edges, the duvet becomes a mild climate that knows your name, and the room answers with a comfort it has been offering all evening. Between them is that little island you only notice when you are kind to yourself. The pause widening by permission rather than effort. You do not make it larger. You refrain from making it smaller, and the body interprets that restraint as trust. If a thought appears with the posture of daylight, give it night's manners. Offer a chair near an open window. Dress it in the word tomorrow, which has the agreeable habit of loosening belts and taking off shoes. Show it the canal of breath and the paper boats you've already launched. Thoughts that expected to negotiate tend to yawn in such company. They sit, they watch lanterns drift, they forget the terms they came to insist upon. This is not avoidance, it is timing. Beyond the walls, the planet continues its literate patience. In a far desert, air cools in calm steps and releases heat the way a reader closes a book, page by page, without ceremony. On an Arctic plain, snow edits the world into kindness, rounding edges, lowering contrast, teaching the eye to admire rather than appraise. In the high air, waves stand above mountain ridges, shapes that persist while the wind itself moves through. Rest feels like that from within. You remain, the moment passes, nothing important is disturbed. Warmth organizes itself into gentle fairness. Capillaries open their small doors, in fingers and toes. Blood yields a little heat, and keeps a little, the blanket giving it back in a local economy that always balances the books. Points become planes, and planes become one continuous field until pressure is not a question but an answer. You are held. Gravity keeps its unshowy promise. The skeleton remembers its effortless length. The jaw lets go of its last small project and rediscovers its native ease. If attention still asks for a task, give it the tide's oldest arithmetic. Choose a vowel-soft word, harbor, home, or hush. Lay it along an inhale as lightly as a leaf on glassy water. Watch it drift on the exhale toward a bend that leads, always and without drama, to morning. After a few breaths, the word ceases to be language and becomes climate present even when you're not looking, useful even when you forget it's there. Let an image settle. A lighthouse on a tempered coast. Its beam turns not to warn but to reassure. The shore remains the shore. The channel keeps its width. The little town behind the dune is exactly itself at this hour. Make one slow circuit pillow. Blanket, breath, jaw, shoulders, hands, the gentle geometry of the room, then slower, then softer, until the beam itself can rest, because the coast is known without looking. Inside, the final commit is adjourn. Vision keeps a watch lamp lit for dreams. Balance hums at a level that says all is steady. Decision-making has pinned a neat card on the door, no votes until dawn. What continues is older and kinder. Regulation, modest repair, and that quiet diplomacy among systems that prefer harmony to display. The archivists close a book with a sound that could only be called soft. They leave another open with a ribbon. Tomorrow will read more clearly for having slept. Time widens once more. Seconds loosen into mist. Minutes draw themselves into one silk ribbon with no knots. Hours become rooms in the same house, their lamps lowering in sequence until the whole place is gentle. If a last visitor arrives, some list, some memory, some question, give them a chair, a blanket, and a view of the window where the sign is always true. We sail at dawn. Worries learn that language quickly. They can stay without steering. And now, with breath keeping its simple covenant, arrive. Release. Arrive. Release. The descent continues of its own accord. Lantern by lantern, path behind dims. Lantern by lantern, a hush ahead glows just enough. The ship holds her even line. The river remembers each bend. The sky keeps its patient ledger. From here, we can drift a little further beneath the last tidy edges of waking thought into the mild interior of dreams, where rooms open onto kind landscapes, weather behaves, and every road curves gently toward exactly where you would like to go. I think it's fair to say, the night has everything it needs to carry you the rest of the way. Let the last images grow soft: the harbor, the lighthouse, the slow river turning a familiar bend. Feel how the bed accepts you, how the room holds a steady climate, how your breath keeps its kind promise. Arrive, release, arrive, release. Nothing asks for effort now. The world beyond the walls keeps faithful time, and the quiet machinery within you answers with ease. If a word wishes to stay, let it be small and round home, or hush. Lay it across an inhale, set it down across an exhale, and then allow it to become only a shape the breath remembers. Eyelids grow pleasantly heavy, the jaw loosens. The hands remember how to be hands without holding. Time widens into a single, gentle room. From here to morning, you are safe to be still. You are held. And the path ahead is lit just enough, lantern by lantern, into dreams that choose kindness and weather that behaves. So we'll leave the coast known without looking, the ship on her even line, the sky with its patient ledger. Breathe in and be received. Breathe out and be received a little more. Good night. Rest well. Let the hush become sleep.